Hey, my name is Kim. Welcome back to my channel. Today for Media Monday, I'm talking about another TV show that I have really loved the last couple of years that finally wrapped up last weekend. Today, I'll be talking about the ending of 1923. So there will be spoilers, of course, for both 1923 and also 1883, if you've seen that. If you're unaware, both 1923 and 1883 are prequels for the Yellowstone franchise. I have also watched every episode of Yellowstone and every episode of 1883. I started with watching Yellowstone first, then watched 1883 as soon as it came out, and then of course watched 1923 week by week as it was released. So the general plotline follows a family struggling to keep a ranch that's been in their family for seven generations in Montana. So they're trying to keep it safe from developers, struggling through that. There's a big theme of traditional values versus detrimental progress, if that makes sense. So out of the three, I would say that 1923 was my favorite for a long time. I loved the first season so much. I rated it 10 out of 10. I thought it was amazing. However, the second season hasn't been my favorite, so I kind of need to go back on that and say that 1883 is my favorite of the three. 1883 is an incredible TV show. If you haven't seen it, it's 8 episodes. Easy to binge. It is honestly one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. Absolutely perfect from start to finish. The ending is gut-wrenching, but again, perfect. Some of the best TV I've ever watched. 1883 stars Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, which I was iffy about at first, but they are actually incredible actors. I was pleasantly surprised. I hope they decide to act in more. I don't know if they will, but they were amazing. So great in this Western setting. The new show just wrapped up. But 1923 stars Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, who are the absolute stars of the show, which is no surprise, but Helen Mirren is my absolute favorite. She plays Cara Dutton, who is the aunt of the boys. So 1883 follows James Dutton, his wife Margaret Dutton, and their kids Elsa and John as they make their way across the Oregon Trail in an attempt to find a new life. They end up settling in Montana. And 1923 picks up 40 years later, obviously, and James and Margaret have died, and John and a new son, Spencer, were then raised by their Aunt Cara and their Uncle Jacob, played by Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. So anyways, the show is following those characters. John has married, he has a son named Jack. Spencer served time in World War I, and he is off on an overseas adventure in Africa. And the show continues from there. So the first season follows Spencer as he meets his wife, and it chronicles some of the challenges that the Duttons face in trying to keep their land back home in Montana. And John Dutton is unfortunately killed at the very beginning, which sparks a series of events, and it results in them writing to Spencer telling him he needs to return because Jacob Dutton is too old, he can't run the ranch on his own, and they need some help. So while viewing the series, there were a lot of jokes in the Facebook group that I follow that Spencer wouldn't make it back to the ranch until the series finale, and hilariously, that ended up being true. I don't know what the creator was thinking with this, what Taylor Sheridan was thinking, but I found that funny. I found okay, I love the show, but seriously, it was very stretched out to be 2 seasons. And then the climax, the ending, it was done in a couple of minutes, which I found very jarring and weird. But yes, anyways, I am going to just go through my likes and my dislikes. I feel like I'm a little all over the place right now, but I'll go through all my likes and then my dislikes. Okay, so at the end of the last episode, we saw Alex getting stuck in a snowdrift. She was trying to drive from Chicago to Montana with 2 friends that she had just met, and they run out of gas and they're freezing. The 2 friends froze to death, and she is stuck in this frozen car. And I was just thinking, why did they even attempt this? Why wouldn't they have waited until it was warmer? It just seemed ridiculous. But at the same time, I guess that Alex was kind of at the mercy of her friend's generosity. They offered to drive her, they did not offer her train fare. So she kind of had to take what she could get in order to get to Spencer. So that I understood, but still, it just seemed a little bit ridiculous. I really like the fact that Alex got to meet Uncle Jacob. So he ends up meeting her while she's on her way to the hospital with frostbite. He is also on the way to the hospital with a gunshot wound, and I felt like those two really had great acting chemistry together. I enjoyed seeing Whitfield getting what he deserved. However, instead of it being by Spencer in like 2 minutes when he walked through the door, I wish that it had been one of the girls he abused who had been able to deliver justice. That would have just made more sense to me. They really put so much emphasis on those scenes. I wish that they had allowed one of the women to have that moment. I really enjoyed seeing Elizabeth find her stride. We saw her struggle all season, crying about how difficult winter was in Montana, and then in this she really toughens up and she saves Zane's life, the cowboy who had brain surgery last episode. So that was really amazing to see. I liked that. Things I didn't love how brief the battle was. Like seriously, it was over within about 10 minutes and it just seemed like, what? This is what we've waited 2 full seasons for? I wish that there had been more to it, more strategizing, more time. I didn't really love how Kara treated Elizabeth when she did leave at the very end. She says, you know, you'll forget him, you'll meet a new man and you'll write letters about him to me. And she's very dismissive of her. And she's like, I have the future here, meaning Alex's baby. And I'm thinking, okay, what about Elizabeth's baby? I think that baby actually is next in line to run the ranch, but they are so wrapped up in Spencer that they want to pass it on to his son, which didn't seem fair. I wonder if Elizabeth will return in the next prequel, 1944, and there will be some kind of battle between the two boys. Speculating. I wish that Alex had been able to see the ranch. It seems so unfair that she traveled so far, went through so much, just to die before she even made it to the ranch. Like, I wish she would have at least been able to see it. I didn't have a problem with her dying. I had a problem with how she died. Number one, it seems so ridiculous. Like, she's a smart girl. I can't believe she ended up stuck in a snow drift like that without any gas, especially after being warned. And it was just cruel. Like, Spencer happens to go by in the train and see her. She's rescued by him, and then she dies anyways. Like, what was the point of that magical reunion just for her to die anyway? Didn't love that as Elsa is narrating Spencer's death, which happened 45 years later. She makes a comment of him taking the comfort of a widow and making another boy. Well, I mean, maybe that will play a part in 1944, but it just seemed kind of jarring to me. I was like, ugh, we're just all sad about Alex. I don't want to hear about this other widow that he's had a thing with. Well, I don't know. I liked the fact that Alex and Spencer were reunited in death, but I didn't like how. I mean, I don't feel like Spencer's heaven is being on a fancy ship. Like, maybe. And I also don't think it's Alex's either. I think she was more wild and she liked the way she lived with Spencer. So I feel like it would have been better if they had reunited in Africa. I don't know if there's filming logistics. I sort of felt like Taylor Sheridan was capitalizing on Elsa's death and how much we all loved that. It was tragic but perfect and gut-wrenching, one of the saddest things I've seen on TV. And in the end, Elsa in 1883 was reunited with Sam and they ride off together. That's her heaven. I didn't feel like this was Alex and Spencer's heaven myself. I wish they had reunited in Africa. Anyways, so while I understood Alex's death, I wish it hadn't happened the way it did. I felt like it was too quick. I also felt like, you know, in reality, they were together for a year. Would Spencer have waited for 40 years and never married anyone else? I don't know. And that ending was just a little bit too Titanic for me. I wish that more thought had been put into it. I did like the fact that it was Alex's choice not to go through with the surgery and to die because, as she said, she didn't want to have her fingers and legs amputated because of the frostbite. She's quoted as saying something like, I can't just dream of running in fields, I have to do it. And so that made sense. I felt like perhaps it was a nod to, like Taylor Sheridan tends to introduce hot topic political issues like, so in this case, he seems to be pro like euthanasia if it's the person's choice, or assisted death. I don't know. I thought that's how he kind of wrapped that in there. And we kind of saw the same thing with Elizabeth's rabies vaccines. It seemed like he was saying people should be given a choice in medical procedures. But anyways, oh yeah, something I forgot to point out was I really loved that symbolic moment where Spencer trades the lion's tooth that he wears around his neck with a boy on the train for a knife. It seemed to me like he was symbolically giving up his nomadic lifestyle and, you know, coming back to settle permanently in Montana on the ranch. So I enjoyed that little bit as well. So anyways, those were my kind of scattered all over the place raw thoughts on the 1923 ending. If you watched it, let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you in my next video.